Learning how to
Mhm.
express who you are feels like one of the very first fears that you must confront.
We don't heal in isolation. When we spend time with one another in these kinds of conversations and being witnessed in our vulnerability, that is heal. That's how we heal.
Instead, we're shown to get through them as fast as possible
Mm.
and sometimes run from them, from the depths of these emotions.
Mm.
I think that's really what the definition of being human is, right? Is tapping into the depth of the pains as well as the joys and the love and being able to actually feel intensely on both ends. That's what makes you really feel alive.
The other one is of a 70-something-year-old woman who 11 years ago was told she had 6 months to live. She had a terminal diagnosis. 11 years later, she's still here.
As a society, we don't tap into our emotions enough, but that's the obvious one. People need to feel more and people need to get in touch with their emotions. But I think the other tragedy is that you don't share it with other people. And we've used that tool ubiquitously, right, for everything. People are waking up to that now and realizing it. And I have a place for the Western medical system. It saves lives. It saved my wife's life. Yeah, thanks so much. I was when I shot you that link initially on LinkedIn, and I think you're out of town, so it was like maybe several weeks that went by, and I was like, oh, either she's not active on LinkedIn or she's just not that interested in talking with us. But then you're like, oh, I'm back. I've been out of town.
Yeah, and I was
So
totally off the grid. So, and when I'm off the
where
grid,
were you?
LinkedIn is the last place that I check.
Yeah. I don't check my
Fair.
LinkedIn even when I'm on the grid.
It has become a bit of a thing, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I I've been I think I mentioned in my note I just got back onto it because I started writing more
Mhm.
and trying to promote and share with TerraForm. So that was the main reason why I got back there. But otherwise, I hadn't used it for a long time. But yeah, so where were you? What were you?
I was um I was traveling in a borrowed RV. I had a 26-foot RV, and I started in Virginia, and then I went to Florida. I drove my car to Florida, spent a week there. Then I drove my car to Houston, where I picked up the RV, and then I drove straight up to northern Wisconsin, saw my family, and then I kept going to the UP of Michigan. Unfortunately, all of Canada was on fire, so there was quite a bit
Mm,
of a smoke issue.
yeah.
So my plan for being out in nature and hiking got the kibosh. I did one little hike and it felt like I'd smoked a pack of cigarettes. I said, okay, well, that's not
Oh,
happening. So then I turned right
yeah.
around and went all the way back. So I did a lot of miles and didn't really get to do or be my outside little extravagant, but I had a great time with my family and that was really healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then
Nice.
I drove back
Nice.
to Virginia. So I'm back in Virginia. And,
So how Do long you was go,
yeah.
do you RV quite a bit? Do you
You
go
know,
RVing?
I had an RV when I lived in New Mexico. And so I did a lot of RVing then, mostly boondocking, which I loved. And then I gave up the RV and I went out on a tour last year, actually. Time is so weird. With a really good friend of mine who lives in an Airstream. And so I wanted to see what it was like to live full time. So I rode shotgun and it was open ended. I got a one-way ticket down there and met her. And then we headed out west and it was open ended. And 3 months later, I flew back from Calgary. So it ended up being quite a little walkabout, actually.
Oh, sweet.
But that was amazing to travel like that. I mean, we boondocked mostly and stayed in snow parks out west, which are such cool places because they're completely deserted and they just let you park in the parking lot. So you're looking at these snow-covered peaks and there's nobody else there and you got the whole place to yourself and there's trails
Wow.
everywhere and oh my goodness, it was a blast. And then Canada was just incredible. We went to a bunch of the parks and hiked, and it was great.
Yeah. Very cool. Very nice. Well, I'd love to just get into like your story. I want to know who you are. And you can get as deep as you want, or you can get as brief as you'd like. But just how you got to where you are today and anything you want to share that is maybe integral to
to how you got here and who you are now.
Fun. It's been a
Yeah.
great meander, which is the name of my website, because I believe that a life well lived is a great meander. I mean, nothing in nature goes in straight paths. So why would humans? And I believe nature is our greatest teacher, and I'd rather be outside than in. And I have a deep reverence and gratitude for nature and everything that she gives us and allows us to be. So um, yeah, I started out as a teacher. I taught health education, high school, college, and sexuality in the summer, and then middle school too. And in 1995, after they had passed No Child Left Behind, and like I'd like to affectionately say, accept every single one of them,
Mm,
because we really, to me, the reason I went into education was I wanted to create this really sacred space for young people to really figure out who they are, right? And to really, by the time they graduate high school, to understand, who am I? My original, authentic being. Who am I, despite everything I've been told I am? And what are my natural skills and gifts and desires? Instead, it was, how can we indoctrinate you to be a certain way and think a certain way so that when you get out, you'll just follow the prescription and just be our little. So by
yeah.
1995, I got this message. I was out on bus duty one day in New Hampshire, and it was just like, your soul or this job. And guess what I picked? And I thought I was going to be a lifer. I was just I felt
Mm,
a calling to be a teacher, and I know, okay, well, that's pretty clear. I guess I just need a bigger classroom. And from there, I
yeah.
went into business and small business in the spinal health realm. I did that for 16 years. And in that, I found coaching, and I've done community health and coalition building and community building, and did a couple of tours in corporate America as a wellness manager. And yeah, and I just recently spent 4 years managing and creating and curating an online health community, which was the most amazing thing I've done in my entire career. So it's been a
Yeah.
wonderful journey. And now I'm a free agent and stepping into a whole new chapter in my life, which is really exciting. And I'm very curious to see what will unfold.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, have you read the book or heard of the book, Lion Tracker's Guide to Life
No, but it sounds
by
awesome.
Boyd? It's exact. I mean, it's just like what you're describing, this meandering path through life. I think Mike actually turned me on to it, but it's a book about this man who is a lion tracker in Africa, and he just went through detail all around like how um, winding and meandering that process can be of actually tracking down these lions, and he related it to his life, which he had quite an interesting life. But anyway, just exactly what you're saying was just kind of this how this book was written. But
Yeah,
it's yeah, it's
the main slogan is I I don't know where I'm going, but I know exactly how to get there, uh, which was just kind of it was just symbolic of the path. You just follow the one next step, and you have no idea where it'll take you, but you know in the end what you're trying to find. But
Yeah.
it would just relates massively to, I think, what you were talking about and helping people helping young people find out who they truly are, their authentic self. And I was just reflecting on that. And I said, if someone started teaching me that when I was in high school or middle school, can you imagine the amount of momentum I would have going into life? Not that there's a wrong turn but it's just what an awesome thing to teach young people,
Yeah.
to
yeah,
have that skill, just to help them navigate life. And I think I started getting into that in my, mid to late 20s.
When
yeah.
you
Well,
think about
it's
native culture, that's woven into the community. I mean, there are direct rites of passage, and people witness you. They don't prescribe who you are. They witness you, and then they allow that to inform them. Oh, you have a gift for this. And then, you know, as that child grows, that child learns how to expand that gift. And it's a completely different process, and in the first world, we don't have rites of passage anymore. As a matter of fact, we've gone that whole thing up. So why does a 4-year-old need to graduate? I mean, let's even start there. What are we doing? We have taken away all the significant. This is really huge. I'm now 18. I'm stepping out of this portal into my young adult life. It is going to look completely different than these 18 years prior. That used to be the culminating. That was the first graduation, right? That used to be a serious rite of passage. Now it happens at 4, and you don't even know what happened. And by the time you get to middle school graduation, these kids are going, I don't want to do this. This is just dumb. What does it matter? I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. Yeah, it's funny.
I mean,
Yeah.
the things that you were, Pat, inspired to do as a teacher was what we all need, and I mean what the world needs. And it's just telling about the system that we're a part of, how it kind of pushes wonderful people like you that have such a beautiful mission kind of out of that, because there's no place for it.
And the really cool thing was, as Mike was just saying so beautifully, what it did was perfectly organically, the universe went in a way that only I could understand because I couldn't see it, right? I mean, I had this feeling that things weren't right. And I had this feeling that this whole boat of education was headed in a direction that I really wasn't committed to. And yet that I felt that was my calling. So what the universe did was like, okay, Marlene, time for a bigger classroom. You can still be this teacher. And so I don't really like roles, but when somebody says, so, great cocktail conversation. So what do you do? Who are you? I say, well, I don't really like roles or labels because it's too reductive and human beings are far too complex for that. But if I'm going to answer that question, I would say, I'm just this eternal explorer, and I'm a guide who supports conscious change makers in their quest to be fully alive and vibrant and thriving. And so isn't it just beautiful that that's where I started with young people, and I came all the way around, and I'm still expressing in that way with adults who, somewhere along all of that indoctrination, which is a whole other conversation, all of that gets snuffed, right? And Mike, you said authenticity. Authenticity is this beautiful, unique soul blueprint that we all have. And yet there's so much of our conditioning that kind of molds us into other in order to fit somewhere. And then people wonder why there's such disassociation between myself and my body, myself and what my purpose, so authenticity is really remembering. It's an act of remembering and kind of looking at all of the things that kept you or snuffed that original light from shining even brighter. And how can we take all those barriers away and change our thinking, which then leads to our behavior to then step more fully into that expression of who am I and what is mine to do, which changes over the course of a lifetime.
Yeah. And that's it's a huge journey. And I mean, it's immense, but the results of that are so profound. I mean, for the individual, but also for us as a collective. I'm just curious, what does that look like for you? Like as you're guiding these adults, and into their authenticity, into like their purpose. Like, how does that look for you?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. And it's evolved. And so I use the word witnessing a lot. And what is witnessing? It's to really see, and not only just see, because when we see, we tend to project and we look through the card catalog in our head, trying to find the label, the theme, the place where we can go, oh yeah, you're this, so I know what to do with you. Well, that's really not seeing at all. So to take that kind of glasses off and really look and perceive, to see is to have a full experience of the person or the thing that I am doing. What am I sensing? What am I smelling? What am I feeling? What am I tasting? What am I What are my eyes taking in? And then to have it, well, what am I receiving in that? And then how am I reflecting back to that? So that's really what witnessing is to listen, to really ask deep questions, to bring a person beyond their reaction programmed answer, to say, oh, I heard your breath catch there. I sense some emotion. What just happened? And I'm like,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
I.
Yeah, and that witnessing is such a powerful thing. And I don't know, I think many people in our society aren't privy to just how impactful that can be to be seen by someone else, not just physically being present with them and watching someone, but like at a really, really deep level. And I think so many of us do try to figure stuff out in our own head, but the having someone just there, either a group of people or an individual. And so can you expand on that a little bit more? Because that idea of witnessing, I think, is huge, and it's not really um, commonly talked about, I think, in the mainstream.
No, it really isn't. And it's a sacred act. When I am witnessing another and being witnessed by another, we enter into this sacred space that then becomes, and it's scientifically substantiated if you want to look at the observer effect. Okay. Something
Uh,
alchemically happens to that of which is being observed. So if you take us in this container right here, we're being witnessed to one another, and there's something really magical happening, and we don't necessarily intellectually compute what that is, but we just sense that there's this energy to it, and there's a frequency, and there's a connection. We're all connected in this moment. And how cool is that? And where are we going to go in that? It's really infinite. We can go anywhere, right? If we allow ourselves to get out of that rote, habitual, I'm in my head. And I would say the majority of the time that I spend with people is freeing people and inviting them to get out of their head and drop into their heart first, and then drop even further into their gut, into their intuitive knowing. And that changes everything, to know something versus to think something, because we can think ourselves in and out of anything, right? And our thinking is a conditioned response. We've learned it. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean we know it, that we embody it. That's a completely different.
yeah, yeah. That I mean, I'm just thinking too of myself, you know, many years ago, and the idea of and a feeling of embodying those things was so foreign. It's and as a society we've pushed the mind to like the pinnacle of our senses. So we've even you think about like all the other four senses, and I think we have many more than four, but or five, but um, the mind has taken such like a priority over everything that it's almost hard for most people to even think about what a life is like where the mind is relegated to something below bodily senses. But what you're speaking to, the intuition, right, is such a felt sense, and how we move that to something that is a priority in the life, and what that does for us, and how that can help us guide us into decisions that are really for us in our authenticity. So, can you speak to that a little bit too, like moving the mind down and trying to lift up the bodily senses and bringing in intuition? Because I know Mike and I are, I mean, we talk about intuition. I mean, that is the guide, right? That is the decision maker for really anything in life. It doesn't happen in the head at all.
It really doesn't. I think that the most shocking thing that I've observed, and mostly my life has been in the health and wellness, right? And the well-being realm, even though well-being
Hmm.
is so much bigger than just health and wellness, right? So even in that realm, the majority of people aren't even present in their own body. They're so far up in their head So when you ask them a simple question about something and they answer, and then you say, you know, you sense that that's not true at all because their body language is different. And then you say, hmm, well, you know, I'm sensing this tension in this shoulders, you know, what's going on? And they go, oh, I'm tense. Well, I didn't know that. I said, why don't you take a deep breath and roll your shoulders back? What do you notice? Oh, I guess I was really holding on. I guess I was really, what are you holding on to? What would be the first thing you'd let go of if you could? Then here we go, right? It's just we have to get out of our head. And so to help people recognize that they're so unaware of their own body, no wonder they feel isolated, disconnected, lonely, misunderstood, you know, malaligned from their body, from their gender, from their profession, from their family, all the things, right? I mean, all the social ills come right back to how present are you in your own being? I mean, we get this beautiful
Yeah.
container to wander around in. When was the last time we
Yeah.
really adored it and thanked it and held it as the sacred thing, the sacred tool it is? And most people go, never thought about that. But I'm all about the biohacking. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. What supplements can I put in here to make myself feel better? Yeah.
right. What about the workout? How many times a week?
Those.
What minute? You know, it's all.
Oh my gosh. I
I'm in
think
my
you're
head.
speaking to.
Oh no. I was saying I'm in my head a lot. I do my best to get into my heart as much as I can. And you talking about it was a very nice reminder because a lot of the times, even when I get into these podcasts, there's this sense of pressure that you're supposed to be talking a certain way and supposed to be asking the right questions and supposed to be responding in the way that's in alignment with TerraForm or, you know, and so just taking that was a nice reminder that there's you need to trust your instinct and trust your intuition and let that kind of guide you. But I was just reflecting on all of this, the authenticity piece, intuition, being in your head. I'm thinking, there we go. I'm in my head again. There.
It's okay.
Yeah. How do you feel, Mike? I feel actually my heart's telling me. Learning how to express who you are feels like one of the very first fears that you must confront because and in my case, and I think I've spoken to enough people that it's true for a lot of people, you've created your personality in your head, and your head is what keeps you safe. Your thinking brain keeps you safe. And so if you're allowing your thoughts to lead, then you stay safe. And if you're allowing your thoughts to lead, then you will continue to be the person that your mind is manifesting, which is not your authentic self. It's the construct and the years of programming. And so I guess what I'm getting to is I'm curious in your experience, how many people are in their head? And I think I know the answer to it, but I'm also curious your thoughts on this idea that becoming your authentic self is one of the first fears to face. And then I'm curious, once you begin that hurdle, and true in my life, the fear of facing my authentic self helped me then move into deeper fears. So in your work, how is that? How is that similar or different to my experience?
Well, first of all, Mike, that was really beautifully articulated. And the majority of people live in their head. So you're in good company.
Yeah.
How that looks, let me give you a perfect example, because this is so up right now. It's up for me personally, but I was just literally this morning having a conversation with one of the dearest friends in my life who is contemplating, well, actually in the process of making this big geographic relocation. And she woke up at 4 a.m. this morning just spinning, you know, in her head. Oh my God, am I doing the right thing? Oh my God, should I just stay? Oh my God, am I going backwards? I feel like I'm going backwards. I'm supposed to be going forwards, but I'm going backwards. And she just, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, hold on a second. Let's just take a breath. Okay. Can we remove the word back from this conversation? Yes. Okay. You have made a decision to move forward. What does it feel like to you? What does moving forward feel like? Well, it's it's changing my physical. So then she started citing all of the details, right? Well, I'm changing my thing and I move over here and edit it. I said, okay, that's what it looks like. And those are details. How does it feel? What is the desire that's pulling you forward? Because really there's two ways to go through. You can go through what I always call kicking and screaming, being pulled by your ear, which funny enough, we do it to ourselves sometimes. Like, oh no, you need to do this and you should do this and you have to do this, right? I call that the shoulds. You should never should on yourself. Stop shoulding. It's a really horrible way to live. So instead, when we hear I should, I have to, I need to, those are all external voices going, okay, Mike, Brian, Marlene, suck it up, Buttercup, let's go. We got to get to work. Let's be adults, right? You go, hold on a second. I hear you. And you just need to be quiet for a minute. What do I want? What do I desire? What do I get to do? You notice the difference? Those words are expressing an internal motivation. I am being literally desire. What is desire? Desire is magnetic. It pulls us forward, right? Shoulding is the big kick in the old panskariski, and it's like, you need to get moving, and we're on a time zone here, and here's some check marks, and did you do this? And you're 10 years behind. You need to up it. Says who? Who's on a timeline anyway? I mean, all the crap. Then you start really running into and being able to highlight all the specific obstacles, even in your own thinking, that are getting in your way of this forward momentum that you're choosing to do, right? So in becoming authentic, and you stated that so well, that's the first original fear. Well, why? Well, because if I really am who I am, you might not like me, and you might judge me. And ooh, that will hurt my very soul, because that is my soul in its expression. And if I show you who I really am, ooh, you could really hurt me. And is that really true? Because if you are just yourself, nobody has any say on what that is or what it isn't. It then becomes you either get me, you either like me, or you don't. It's no big deal. It has nothing to do with me. And yet we spend our whole life trying to be someone else because that's what we think we should be, or we've been told we are. And then it even gets harder, to your point. Once you go down that road, and then you start realizing, you come around a corner one day and you don't even recognize yourself, or you find yourself doing something. How in the world did I end up here? This is so not, and you can just feel it in your body. You might be depressed. You might have gained 10 pounds. You might not be sleeping. You might be anxious. You might be worrying, all the things, right? You go, okay, ooh, I'm clearly not myself right now. So the best thing I can do is to find my way back and remember this. And how can I remove all those obstacles and the thinking and the habituality that keeps me playing a role that isn't me?
Yeah. And the story that keeps us in those roles is a story of safety, and I think that's ultimately what we're all seeking. But the untruth in that is that it really isn't. It's not safe, and it's going towards the fear really is pushing you more towards who you really are, but it's the unknown of what that looks like, because you're stepping into a place you've never been before, and you're forcing yourself to possibly let go of all of these things that you've created that keep you safe, whether it's the job or the relationships or the behaviors or your haircut, right? Whatever it is that you've identified yourself with at some point, and it may be in layers and in steps. You have to face each one of those and ask yourself, is this something that is me, and can I let it go? And some of those things are huge, especially when it comes down to finances and relationships and jobs and things like that, and family. Some people may get forced to actually leave someone, to leave a job, to be in a position where they may not have a steady paycheck, and where they may have kids and family to support. And that confronts them with a huge decision to make, right? Like, do I keep moving towards where I think I'm meant to go towards myself, or do I stop here and settle back into the story that has told me, I'll I'll keep my job, I'll keep paying the bills because this is what I've been told, and this is how I think life works, right?
You know, it's so beautiful, Brian. You just brought up a huge thing, and it's duality. I'm either going to stay what I'm doing and it's safe and secure, but it's not really who I am, or I'm going to step out over this cliff and go free fall into something. It's a this
Yeah.
or that, right? And so my invitation to people is there an and there? Could it be possible that I can still do this to have financial sustainability and doing something that's almost so easy to me? It's so behavioral to me. I don't even really need to think about it, which then takes that basic need of safety and security off the plate. So then I can really elevate to higher levels of creativity to actually then express more of my authentic nature in this way, maybe through my art, maybe through my relationships, how may I, maybe through my expression, maybe through my spiritual practice, all the number of ways that we do this thing, and I love to work with transformation more, and that's why I call myself a guide and an explorer, because hey, we're going to go on this journey together. We have no idea what we're going to find, but it'll be fun. Trust me. It'll be really cool. I don't know what's going to happen. Who knows? I don't know how long it's going to take. We don't know, but let's just go and walk this thing and we'll figure it. How cool will that be? And people automatically
Yeah.
go, okay, to your point, Mike, the expectation of who I think I need to sound like and who I need to be this professional adult just completely drops. And I can take a breath and go, and then I get to be in that tension, the delicious tension, tensegrity, the tension between my integrity and my tension, right? The tensegrity of something. And that is actually part of transformation. If there is no tension, if there is no pull, if there is no, ooh, this is scary as all get out. If there isn't that, then you're still in comfort zone. Then you're still not really, you're not going beyond the known.
Yeah.
When you have stepped into authenticity, when the sweat starts and when you start to breathe and when your pulse goes and your stomach goes, oh yeah, this is it. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So then the cool thing is, let's build a bridge. It doesn't have to be a this or a that. It can just be this great thing, and we're just going to build a bridge to it.
I'm so curious what your experience is and advice is on the bridge building process and facing these fears. I have I'm in a phase of my life where I'm facing a lot of fears, and I don't think I volunteered a lot of them. I think they've just come up and I'm facing them, which is great because it kind of feels like the band-aid just got ripped off. And not to say there weren't a lot of big decisions that have led me to this that I feel very much responsible for and am so grateful that they have the creatorship over it. But I'm curious, I think for me financial is a huge one, and I'd imagine a lot of it's financial. What's your perspective on the bridge building component and the maybe the length of the leap of faith that you suggest people take? Um, there's one camp that will say build something that is going to maintain a certain level of comfort and convenience and stability while you transition to this new thing. But then there's this part that I've started to see is that when you build that bridge, you aren't establishing a durability, and you aren't establishing faith. Building that bridge in some ways to me means you're not leaving you're not leaving anything behind, and there's still a sense of control to it. And so maybe that's not accurate, but in my experiences, it feels like every time I'm wishy-washy and not quite sure, that I just am reminded it's because you don't have enough faith to get to that next step. Like, anyway, help me elaborate on that a bit. Does that make sense? Does my
Makes
question make
perfect
sense?
sense. And the first thing that I would reflect back to you is, what is faith to you? What does that feel like?
Faith to me is it's more of a faith is, I think, an immense amount of self-love that any circumstance you find yourself in is going to be okay, that you're going to catch yourself no matter what, and that there is no failure. Um, but faith is also trusting that you don't need control of anything, and that the result is going to be something beyond your imagination and better for you than you could have ever thought.
Yeah, something bigger than yourself is there to catch you. Something beyond what you could even comprehend is there to catch you.
Again, that was so beautifully articulated. And what I hear from both of you in that is that's such an inside job. And the faith where you started, Mike, if I may, what I heard was like, it's the two things, right? I'm either there, and you beautifully delineated. Well, there's two camps. There's one camp that says, well, build something to scale, and then and only then, when it can hold, then you can jump. And you didn't articulate the other camp, but I could only assume that it's, you want to do this thing, jump off, rip off the band-aid, just go for it. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah.
Both of those things require faith. And both of those things, I'll ask you both. Do you hear a difference as to where that faith is being drawn from in those two instances?
There's a little bit of the head in in the scaling. It, I think it really comes down to just to where your level of consciousness is at. What does your belief in yourself and the universe, what does that belief allow you to, how far does it allow you to jump? I think is really what it's coming down to. And in the full on leap, right, there is still a level of uncertainty, but there is more of a trust. It's grounded in something far beyond what the mind could come up with. So it does seem to be a little bit of a spectrum of how much does the ego creep into this versus how much do I just trust and have faith in something that is almost completely unknown, maybe.
Seems to me that there's this threshold that I've come to where I've taken enough baby steps um, to get me to a spot, but never once did I fully surrender to whatever you want to call it, to God, to the universe. It's always been partial surrender in the moments that are convenient for me. And I feel like there's something asking me, like, when are you going to go all in? And that's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go all in. Like, is there like a return from it? Is there a return from all in? Like, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's just what's coming up is there's these kind of like dips into surrender. And then or at least for me, there's these dips into surrender. And the universe is giving me proof and permission. Like, you did that, and you got this amazing sign. Like within days, within hours, all of these things just happened, like at that level of surrender. And it's like, but then you go back to safety. And it's like, when are you going to just stay in the surrender? And when I hear about the two camps, that's why I'm like, yeah, ripping off the Band-Aid, but it's also a very conscious decision to stay there. Um, Going from one to the other, I think, is pretty much just the other camp, is the scaffold building, is the structure. Um, so the camp I'm in is I kind of want to get to the full surrender, but it's too scary.
Mhm. What I hear you say lands this question for you, and I ask it a lot. And it's this: are you interested or are you committed? Because if you're interested says, oh, yeah, this is cool. I'll play around with this until it gets too hard, it gets too scary, it gets too, I don't know. And then I'll go, nah, no, I'm done. I'm tapping out. No, that's not me. Committed means, oof, I am all in. I'm going to see myself through this completely, especially when it gets hard. Because then when it gets hard, that's where you reap things that you could have never known that you would reap. You actually really then meet your authenticity. You meet that inner fire. You learn. You not only learn, but you embody what you're made of. You get to see, whoa, now I see where I was interested and I was actually cutting myself short. Because when it got the big, hairy, scary, it was just too easy for me to go, oh, no, there's an exit door, I'll take it. What do you hear in that?
I'll just I'll just paint the picture what I'm going through. Um, Ryan and I are building TerraForm. The first thing we've done is the sauna, the bathhouse, and I'm the operator. We just hired one employee, and I also have a part-time job to pay the bills. Um, and so there's this leap of faith that can happen, could happen, where I fully commit to Terraform, and I leave the part-time, the day job behind, and that's the security, that's paying the bills, that's everything I need. But I know at one point, I know on one hand it's holding the growth of Terraform back, um, because I'm not investing all my time and energy into it. Um, and then on the other hand, there's this comfort and security from the day job, and I'm constantly motivated and fueled by Terraform. I always want to be doing it. And my day job is great too, but it's not the thing I want to be doing for the rest of my life. Um, and so I'm committed to Terraform, but the leap of faith right now is just in like I'm interested in this. I'm not and it's very obvious I haven't done that yet, and the right time for it. Um, so anyway, I have more to explain on that, but that's the situation I'm in, and that's how I feel about those camps.
Thank you for that. I hear an and there. I don't hear a this or that. I hear an and. Do you feel an and?
Maybe it's not. Yeah, maybe it is an and. It's maybe there isn't this great divide that I'm turning it into. It's just a both.
Yeah, it is. It is
Yeah.
pedantic saying, but this really fits. It is what it is, right? The reality is you have this financial feeder. I mean, look at it as fuel. We need fuel to run our body. You need fuel to run your life. You, there needs to be a certain level of financial comfort for you to then take that survival thing off the table, that allows you to access the level of true commitment and true passion and true visioning to build TerraForm to where you want it to go. So I don't hear it's this or that, because you're fully committed here and you know this is just a means to an end. And I'm hearing an and. When it's time, when you feel, or as you so beautifully said, the universe has provided me all sorts of, oh yeah, this is, things come through, people come through, jobs come through, things come through, it just shows up. When that starts to show up consistently, you will know, capital K, from your gut, that it's time to let this go and step fully. I don't hear a lack of commitment or doubt at all. It's just you, and I love that you articulated for that self. You're thinking, oh, well, it's this or that. Well, no, it's an and. Clearly, you're spending all your time and energy and your passion over here, and this is just a means to an end. And it's not taking up just but a fraction of life. So is there enough room for that to continue?
Yes, for sure. It feels safe, and that's what and I get back, and this is kind of the warrior poet in me. The pendulum swings, you know, in the direction, I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the saying, but if the pendulum swings one direction, is going to go the opposite. Like, I'm seeing that I'm letting my pendulum do this, which is maybe fine. I shouldn't be giving it, but my pendulum's doing this, because it's like part-time and TerraForm. What if I let the pendulum swing, and I just, instead of 30 hours a week, I'm doing 15 with the other one, and I just boom, and my pendulum, boom, and TerraForm. But instead I'm just doing these little itsy bitsies. So that's the warrior poet in me, where I'm like, oh, how cool would it be if I just surrendered and went all in? And what is your thought on that? Like,
And
everyone
I lost it all, and how beautiful. And then I got
and
it
it was
all back.
blazed,
And
it was firing blades, but it was awesome. Like, I don't know why everyone I talk to about financial situations, just their first instinct is, you need it, you got to have money, like, and I get it, but it's like, I sense it's all coming from fear, and I haven't, and I feel like you're starting to say some things that are convincing and helpful. And could you elaborate a bit more on that? Like, I am a very frugal person. But I have this, like, thing inside of me that's like, enough of this bullshit, like, enough of this BS about money and system. Abundance is everywhere. Like, are you going to be the example that shows the world what that means? Like, to break the mold and do the thing and stop, like, clinging on and letting your pendulum swing. Like, who's going to do that and show the world that, like, abundance is here? Like, it's arrived, and Mike did it, you did it, this person did it, and everyone follow. Like, just follow your authentic self, and it will come. But I'm letting myself, like, pendulum, itsy bitsy, itsy bitsy. I'm like waiting for just, make it happen and show the world that this is like a thing.
My first question would be, what is enough for you? You say you're frugal, so it doesn't sound like you have an extravagant lifestyle. What would feel like enough for you, that it wouldn't be I need to burn this all to the ground and lose everything I worked so hard for, and it'll be a great freaking story. Oh, I burned my life to the ground and I really put my whole heart and soul in, and we did one project and then we came to a screeching halt. Yeah, that was great. Wouldn't recommend it, but it sure as hell was fun.
Right.
Right?
There's this belief that I have this belief that you've heard, the abundance is everywhere. Law of attraction. If you fully commit to that camp, there isn't this burn it to the ground. My thought is, if you don't fully commit, and maybe you overextend yourself, that's when it burns to the ground. But if you're all in, the universe is just going to reward you, and it will just shatter this system of scarcity, but you have to go all in. Um, and so I have no way of proving this, but my thought is that when people don't go all in and they do take the leap of faith, it's because when there is a shortcoming, it's because they have this incipient, like a little bit of doubt that's just tears the whole thing down.
I don't know that that's true. I mean, doubt is a mind game, and we've been so
Yeah.
conditioned. Doubt and fear, we eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So to obliterate all doubt is just some unicorn fairy idea of what it means to live in the secret, right? Okay. Well, if it were that easy to live in the secret, we'd all have manifested everything we ever dreamed of like that. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. So there is, and it's an inside job. Everybody has their own journey to take to answer for yourself. What do I need? So if it's a dollar amount in your bank account, if it's being able to cover this month's bills, or if it's 6 months or whatever, a year, if there's a bottom line that you really feel like you need to know and trust, well, then define the bottom line. And when you get to the bottom line, then you will know it's time to fully step forward. And you do so in full safety, knowing that you've covered yourself, that you're not abandoning that and you're not doubting it. It's just you're not being stupid either. You know that you need X amount to live. It's just a fact. Until we come up with alternative, and it's happening as we speak. There's all sorts of ways that people are exchanging currency, which I look at as energy, right? Instead of money. And I think the reason that it feels so big is because it is so big. I mean, the haves are just, there's fewer of them and there's more of the have-nots every day. People who used to just be in that middle section, doing long and everything was cool, they have now also taken a big hit. And it's really being talked about, and I think it's scaring everybody to death. And so I keep saying, turn off the dang news and go outside and really look at your life. Do a really complete judgment-free assessment of my life today. Okay, what do I really need in order to feel safe? I need a roof over my head. I need to be able to buy the food I want to need. I need to drive my truck. That's really all I need. I don't go out to eat. I don't have an extravagant lifestyle. I don't need to go to Europe. I don't need to wear Rolex. Okay, that's pretty simple, right? Then when you have that covered, then you know that you can count on that. I think it's also, trust. With trust comes not only who else has my back, but do I have my back? And part of shoring up your what is it that I need to feel really safe and secure. And it doesn't have to be this huge numbers. It just needs to be, basic. Let's just really look at basic.
Yeah.
Take it all down to the studs.
Yeah. As I'm in this, I think it'll be lifelong. I hope it's lifelong, like this state of tension and this state of growth. And I'm realizing that there's a balance too with all of this and creativity and expression of your authentic self. And I think the more your needs are met in a predictable way, the more you can express yourself and be creative and think outside of the box. And as much as I really have this maybe irrational, maybe it's not the most smart, ride the pendulum idea. As I explore that more, the other idea of how do we create spaces that allow people to get the fullest swing out of their pendulum? What does that look like? And I don't think it's the existing system. I think it's something much different. Um, but that's what's been driving me. Like, I don't want these little itsy bitsy things. How do we get these? How do we get people in a community and stable and thriving to a level where their authenticity can just soar? Um,
Yeah.
because you eliminate enough fear, you you just raise the bar of their capacity to express themselves.
Yeah. That's a big question, I think. Yeah. And everybody's so different too, right? And they're like you have a real excitement around just unleashing your authentic self. Like I can feel that you're just like, I just want to let myself ride. Like, so I don't want to be held back, right? There's this like almost like fierceness behind your desire to just go, which is, and but there's still a part of this natural um, cycle of life, of living, right? Of dying. You're going through a death, and I think what we're touching on, and you and I both have experienced quite a bit of this recently, is coming out of this death process, right? Of letting go of old things, and it can't. Maybe it does have to be slow and painful for some people, like going through that cocoon phase needs to be slow. It needs to be painful. The suffering needs to be there in order for you to come out the other side, guns ablazing, right? like, and it may not look sexy and
It
romantic, right?
never will look sexy ever.
It may not look like a warrior poet, right? Like you're gonna look like a loser, Mike. No, just kidding. You're gonna look like an average Joe.
Yeah, there's a lot of
You're
confidence
gonna
right there. Oh, great. I get to look like a loser. Oh, yeah, sign me up for that. No.
but I think that's part of it all is this like you are being in a sense forced to pull yourself and strip away these things that have been a part of your life. And I can speak to myself, these things that we have created for ourselves, and you're taking responsibility for them. Like you're owning up to these things. You're like, yeah, I entered into these things and I didn't really know what I was getting myself into at the time. And now I'm taking ownership of those things and realizing this is the direction I want to head. But the weight of those decisions that we made, or unconsciously or consciously, they're coming out in the process that you're going through now, in that transition process. So it's almost like the lack of consciousness that you made going in, and this is not always exactly how it works out, but the lack of consciousness and the weight that it has had on your life and on your authenticity, you could say, is related to what you have to get through to move past those things, to let those things die.
Yeah.
And so for you, this little ticky tacky thing might be like, that's your suffering, right? That's your cocoon, right? You're in this little cocoon. You're like, damn it, like, just get me out of this.
It's claustrophobic
Like,
in here.
Yeah, I built a
yeah. And so
really
like,
tight cocoon.
Yeah.
so that's the romantic warrior poet story that you wrote for yourself. You're like, I'm just going to sit in this middle ground for so long that seems so, unfulfilled. Until I've figured it out, or whatever it is that you need to learn.
Until I realized that the door has been here all along and all I had to do was open it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
It's
doesn't need to be this big pendulum swing. What if full faith and full commitment and full stepping forward is merely just opening the door and stepping out? And the door stays open and your little cocoon is still here. What if it's just that?
Yeah, I think it's a confusion, and both of your perspectives are so massively helpful. It might be a confusion of perspective. It's not what do I need to be doing? What do I need to be igniting to get to this authenticity? It's how do I capture this authenticity in the state I'm in now, in the doing that I'm doing now? why does my authenticity need to be expressed through a certain act or a certain um, level of involvement with Terraform? Why can't this authenticity be 100% alive in this movement, in the little
Yeah.
modulations? Like
Here's the
that's just
beautiful
a
thing about
you know,
being authentic. Authentic is the being. It's not the doing, it's the being.
mhm, yeah,
Okay. And
yeah,
when we are being, this great meander is a whole, if we're lucky enough, it's a long lifetime of being, which then allows us to become, which then we be and we become and we be and we become. And it's just this whole series of being and becoming, as opposed to I need to do, I have to, I should, nobody needs that. That's
yeah,
a whole lot of pressure that nobody needs. How am I being to inform what I'm becoming? It is the chrysalis thing. It is the I'm gonna stay in the goo. You're in the goo right now. And the goo is the worst part of it all because it feels icky and all you want is out. And yet, if you bust it open too soon, you're not fully formed yet. So not the right time, right tool, right? You're going to drill a hole in it when it's time to do so. And yet, what if you just talk about surrender? I love that you use that word. What if the best thing you can do in your being right now is to fully surrender in your becoming and allow yourself to be the goo?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when the goo, I love, it's no mystery that your business is terraform. When your goo finds its form, it will then find its ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like I love this concept of momentum because I'm I'm stunting my momentum by assuming that I need to be in a certain spot to express. It's like you can do your fullest expression in the goo in the cocoon phase. Like it all can
Mm.
happen. All of that can happen right now. Um,
And it is,
and
and it
it,
is that.
and it is, yeah. What a great reminder to like. I didn't even see that as a momentum killer.
Mm.
Like I thought that striving was my what was giving me my momentum, but in actuality, it was actually stunting my momentum. So, wow, what a
Yeah.
great what a great reminder. What a great thought. Thank you both, and for for using my real life example. Hoping a
So
lot of
yeah.
people can benefit from this.
Well, it's the best
Yeah. I
kind,
think
right? It's the best kind, only when you can apply. I mean, because we could esoterically talk nirvana, like I like to call it living with the fairies, right? We can live with the fairies all day long, but at some point the fairies need to execute. And if you only live it with the fairies, then all you do is you spend your whole life going, oh, you're chasing the next thing, right? Oh, this is pretty. Oh, this is great. Oh, it, but nothing ever gets executed. So what we're talking about is that beautiful balance of being and becoming at the same time. You hold this vision, but you let the energy of that, of the being and becoming, fuel you into your next iteration.
it's
That's it.
a, f- a wonderful lesson from Marlene and Marlene in action right now. Like, yeah, at work. Um, in talking about this death, rebirth idea, I'm sure that you've worked with people who are physically at that level, on the verge of possibly dying or with a terminal diagnosis. And so moving this conversation from these more, um, personality driven or identity driven deaths to like physical death. And I know there's a relation there, but I think that like there's some powerful healings that I imagine you have seen many of them where people are at this point in their life. It's like they're faced with this massive thing, and to them it might be life or death. But I think this conversation you probably had with Mike would go very similar to what some of these people are thinking too. But can you just talk about stories that you've encountered like that, and the transition and the transformation people make. And I also am curious too, for you to touch a little bit on the story that many of us in the mainstream believe is true about these diagnoses, these terminal illnesses per se, or even just facing death in general.
Talk about the one scare. You want to clean a room out? Talk about dying.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that we are so obsessed with chronology. We're so, successful means I live to this mysterious age of whatever, which I'm always trying to push, right? I'm trying to biohack my way to 120. Well, good luck with that. How much life are you having in your quest to get to 120? Okay. So where it becomes, I've got two examples, real examples. One happens to be my brother, who was always my person in my life. We were 13 months apart, but we might as well have been twins. I'm older. He was a year young. Healthiest male you ever want to meet. I mean, just ate right, did yoga every day, meditated, did some other things that probably weren't optimal. And yet all of a sudden, and he had a melanoma taken off his chest in 17. And then all of a sudden in 2020, the end of 22, he calls and he says, now, meanwhile, I had spent a year with him and he was as healthy as a horse. He was running up and down stairs and lifting heavy things. And, he slept a lot and his color wasn't right. And he was very upset about the state of the world. He's a very creative guy. He saw his gift to the world was beauty. He could see beauty where nobody could see. And yet in the state of the world, he allowed himself to believe that all there was darkness. And there was no beauty anymore. There was no love anymore. What is the... And I watched my healthy, beautiful, strong brother go from this vital, vibrant, be a little dull human being to the moment he passed in May of 23, looked like a 95-year-old withered up old man. And he was... people say, oh, death is so beautiful. This was the worst thing I've ever witnessed in my life. This man was so angry, and unfortunately, he took it out on me because I was the most trusted person, right? Yeah. Which was hard too. But that's one aspect. He's got the diagnosis, which never really meant anything to him. And then all of a sudden, why? And there's no irony in this. It was melanoma. And so by the end of his life, the scans just showed full black dots all over everywhere. The blackness, the darkness just overtook him. And it snuffed him out. Talk about losing your light. That's how the darkness and what you focus on and what you feed grows. There's a perfect example, a very difficult one.
Yeah.
The other one is of a 70-something-year-old woman who 11 years ago was told she had 6 months to live. She had a terminal diagnosis. 11 years later, she's still here. And she keeps getting new tumors, and her thing is, oh, well. So it really comes back to my original start to this whole thing, which is what I'm so obsessed about. How much life does your life contain? And what are you feeding? Are you feeding that light of your original light of your authentic being? Are you feeding that with everything you've got? Are you loving it? Are you being graceful with it? Are you expressing that so that others can receive that and express that back to you, which then exponentially, talk about a frequency shifter. If everybody lived like that, can you imagine? That's where miracles happen. In that container of witnessing and being witnessed in this feeding of the light, does it grow? And then that's where spontaneous remission happens. Well, what happened? He was full of cancer, and then the next minute, whoop, it's gone. Well, what happened? Well, nobody can explain that. Therefore, we don't know. And if we were and we're obsessed with we're obsessed with making it through. So let's talk about that for a second. So you get this horrible diagnosis, and then they actually put a timestamp on it, as if, right? So don't you just,
Yeah.
and if somebody's going to listen to that, then don't you just start the clock right there when you tell them that? And there's two kinds of people. The one that's going to go, yeah, no, we're not having that. I'm going to do whatever it takes to continue to live my life. And then you have the other person who just goes, yeah, well, my life is done. I guess I am. And guess what? They're right. And guess what? They're right. So my invitation to people is, and it breaks my heart to see what so-called modern medicine and healthcare, and I like to jokingly say healthcare, not healthy or caring, let's discuss. I mean, think about the torture that we put people through to sustain their life. Well, is that really a life? You're on life support. Is that a life? And yet we don't want our animals to suffer. So we willingly put them down. We allow them the grace of passing, but we don't with humans. How about we look at that? There's a topic that really needs to be explored. Are we really exploring the right things? And I don't think we are. I don't think we've been exploring the right things for a very long time.
Yeah, no. The Western medical system has a place.
It does. Right tool, right time.
Exactly, yeah. And we've used that tool ubiquitously, right, for everything. And it's people are waking up to that now and realizing it. And I mean, I have a place for the Western medical system. I mean, it saves lives. It saved my wife's life. She had a pretty aggressive brain tumor that she had to have removed twice. So without it, I don't know where, she would be. And in those dire situations, it was growing very fast, right? There was no time for a world changing perspective, right? There was no time for her to change her worldview around how the healthcare system works and how it comes from the conversations we are having right now, right? And so there is a place for it, but it's become so widespread. We're using it for everything, and it's become so detrimental. And there's this massive fear of death, of dying in itself. And I think if we had a different understanding behind it, the true understanding behind it, everything would change. I mean, the healthcare, the Western medical system in itself would change, but individually and collectively as human beings, the fear would disappear. There's nothing to fear about death, right? And I think we spoke before the call just about being alive. What and the thought that came to my mind was there's really nothing more helpful than showing you how alive you are than coming close to death or dying. And yeah. Oh, I'm gonna need to take a second. Just yeah, it's the experience is fresh. Sorry.
Got you.
Yeah.
I almost cried when I was talking about the pendulum, if it makes you feel any better.
Crying is a beautiful thing.
Uh-huh.
It just shows how much you love your wife. And I'm so glad that she utilized the surgery to take away, and that can be as simple as that. Okay, something's wrong, let's take it out. That's a perfect use and thank God for Western medicine, right? It's just, and I'm not saying it's an either or. I'm saying we're looking at the whole thing really kind of messed up. Instead of looking at how much life you get, what is the quality of the life that you're getting? How alive are you feeling? And to your point, Brian, there's nothing like death, looking death in the eye, literally, to make you go, okay, where am I dead in my life? Where are my dead
Yeah.
zones? Where am I really living? Where am I not living to my full potential? And if there's nothing that makes you want to take a leap of faith and more than that, I mean, then I don't know. You might be so far up in your head that you can't feel a thing.
Right. Yeah. And, and that and that is one of the, like, the trauma behind this, even just surgery itself,
Mm.
and experiencing something like that kind of that wake up call, and going through something so difficult is sometimes exactly what you need, um, to really show you, some things in your life that maybe aren't exactly what you had realized or had planned or had hoped for. So, um, it does have its gifts, as that does, but they're abrasive, right? Like, right? They are traumatizing, in their own sense. So yeah.
Yeah, they really are. And to work, to work with it. I mean, it's been 2 years now, so I can speak my brother's name and I can talk about his death without bursting into tears. It took me a
Sure.
long time and there are moments I still do because it's just too beautiful to not, that's just how deeply I loved him and what an impact. I may cry on that. What an impact they
Mm.
had on my life, and he's no longer physically here, but that impact is still alive and well every single day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't start laughing when I think of something funny that he would have said about something, or, and that's the other thing. It's the, it's the invisible gifts of life that we don't pay much attention to. And yet, what if we did? What if we revered those moments more than anything?
Right.
Can you imagine
It's-
how much life you would have in your life? Everything would be a sacred expression, you know, even the mundane things. You would have this moment and you would, wow, this is so beautiful.
Yeah. Instead, we're we're shown, to get through them as fast as possible,
Mm,
and to, and sometimes run from them, to shy away from the depths of these emotions,
mm,
right? Of too overwhelming, too much. Let's squash them or numb them in some sense, because it's just too much to handle, and sometimes it is too much. But the the going into those emotions is really what brings life to to being a human, right? The depth of emotion that we can feel as human beings is immense. And I think we take that for granted. A lot of us take that for granted. But when you look as at humans, at human beings and their capacity to feel, it's it's profound. Um, and I think that's really what the definition of being human is, right? Is tapping into the depth of the pains as well as the joys and the love, and like um that shift of the pendulum, right? Of being able to actually feel intensely on both ends. Like, that's what makes you really feel alive, right? Like being in the middle, and kind of where Mike talked about, like the kind of the middle, there's not really a lot of intensity. It's kind of that numbing middle ground, right? Of moderation. That's death,
mm,
right? Like, and that's what Mike is talking about. Like, and we talked about it. He's going through a death process, right? It's like this in between phase of numbness and moderation, and of kind of not being able to express that full light. And I think there's so much beauty, like in the moments that my wife and I can cry together, and in the moments that we can love each other. Gosh, I'm sorry. There's just so much beauty in those things. Yeah.
I think what the tragedy
Yeah.
in a lot of experiences is what you're saying, the inability to feel those emotions, I think, is one of them. As a society, we don't tap into our emotions as enough. But that's the obvious one. People need to feel more and people need to get in touch with their emotions. But I think the other one is the other tragedy is that you don't share it with other people. And all of these things, all of these profound life events have this massive meaning to them, but we're in a culture where we're told to just pick ourselves up and to move on. And we skip the part where we relish in all of those emotions and learn more about ourselves and share our stories with the people and talk to them about how it made us feel and how it made us grow. And I just like Brian and I were talking about everything both of us are going through. And it's like, man, like no one shares these things. Like I recently went through a divorce and it's like everyone I talk to, their story is, yes, I went through it and it sucked. I don't recommend it, but it was the right thing to do. But it sucked, right? Move on, next thing, next chapter. And it's like, where's the growth? Where's the emotion and the complexities and the paradoxes? Like there's so much condensed into that life event that our culture just says don't talk about it. So there it's just so hard to see that all of these beautiful things can just be glossed over.
You know what you
And I'm
bring?
glad we're talking.
I am
Yeah.
too. Thank you for that. And thank you, Phil and Brian, for sharing about your wife and just all the blessings for her recovery and her continued health and your time together. It's just, and we've kind of gone full circle, right? We talked about witnessing. I came into the conversation with witnessing. We don't heal in isolation. And when we share the suck, when you can say, I am I am right here and I am not liking it at all. And this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I'm really wrestling with. This is where I have my doubts. I like to call it you going into the basement. We need to spend more time in our basement and really look at the scary corners, especially the one that I refuse to go over there because I'm going to run right back upstairs because it makes me have goosebumps every time I even go near it. I'm not even going near it. Well, guess what? That's where the gift lies. And when you can get over there in that corner that gives you the goosebumps that there's a ghost over there, there probably is. Let's go look at it. Let's go sit down with that ghost. Let's make friends with that ghost. Let's find out what it is that's so doggone scary that has me running up the stairs every time. When we spend time with one another in these kinds of conversations, and I bless and thank you both for the opportunity to be so forthright and vulnerable and transparent with one another. It is in these conversations and being witnessed in our vulnerability that is heal. That's how we heal. That is the balm. That is the antidote. And the more that we can do this for one another, and it's not only for the three of us right now, there's a ripple effect that's happening. When it's because it's an energetic, right? So let's just really talk about the healing properties. And nobody ever told us this. We didn't get taught this. We, to your point, especially as men, oh, don't feel, that's dangerous territory. You can't do that. And a lot of women too. If you want to be a successful woman, you can't be all emotional, behave more, shove them in. Okay. And then we wonder why people are having all these autoimmune diseases and all of these, they're okay. Guess what? You may think that you shove it in and lock it down, but it's alive and well, and it's creating its own ecosystem. And it is exponentially expanding. When and only when we can give that pain, give the confusion, give the freaking I got my heart ripped out and stomped on, and I looked at death in the eye in the eyes of the woman that I love more than life itself. Right? When we can be with each other in those moments, there is healing that happens.
And there's almost the sharing itself is the healing. It's not necessarily, as long as the group is accepting and loving, and most of the time it is, but I've just found that the simple act of just sharing something provides you with the healing you need. And of course, prayers and hugs and affection are awesome and all of those things, but there's just something magical about expressing what it is that you need to say. And oftentimes, I've been going to a group on a weekly basis, and sometimes I'll just go there and share something, and no one will need to say anything. I just, they don't say, they just, they take it in, and maybe sometimes there's a few words shared, but never advice given. And it's just
That's the
like, oh, at
worst.
the end, you're just like, that's all I needed. It's just like a space to like let that energy go. And wow, what a great relief that was, or an exchange that was. And the words were minimal.
So true. And when we use our voice is the holy resonance of our soul, right? It's our soul that's speaking. So when we use our voice and when we articulate, even if we can't, even if we can't come up with words, you show up in a space, you show up in your group, and you go, man, I am really in it today. And I'm feeling so dark and so lost, and I don't even have words to describe it, but I'm really glad I'm here. There's healing in there.
Yeah.
You don't need, you don't need anybody, and especially, please, if you're listening, don't fix it for people. That's the last thing anybody who's in pain wants to hear. Oh, well, did you try that? Ah, no, I might choke you right now. I know you're trying to be helpful, but that's the last thing I need you to do.
Yeah.
Just be here just be here with. Did you hear what I said? Did you feel my words? Did you feel my energy? That's all I need. Just witness me, right? And when we can learn to witness ourselves fully, then and only then can we fully, without expectation, witness another. And our capacity to do that grows. So now instead of just witnessing one on one, I can witness in a group, and the whole group collective feels the love of the witness and the intensity of the witness without really having, and the less you speak, the better.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's bringing it to the surface, right? That's what the voice does. And when somebody is talking, that's another cue. If somebody's talking really high up, either in their nose or up in their throat, really constricted, the invitation is take a deep breath. Allow yourself to drop in, and immediately their voice will drop. Now now you know that they're speaking. Their wisdom, their pain now has space to come up. If you're up here, you're still in your head and you're trying to control it. It's that trap door that's just barely hanging on by a piece of dental floss, right? And when you can drop in, then it can be released and then it can be expressed.
That this simple thing that we're speaking of is so so easy in a sense, but it's something that we've never really known as far as call it a, a part of healing. And just if that simple thing was just if we all knew that, right? If we were all taught that, it could change so much about the way that we move through these darker times in our life. Yeah, it gets me going back to what you were doing when your first career as a teacher, and like this is something we should know as kids, as children, right? How to be in the presence of someone who's going through something, and how to support people, and the importance of sharing that with others when we're going through it ourselves. Yeah.
And the crazy thing, no matter how old you are, that little child is still alive. And we're still just a bunch of little kids running around in adult suits, trying to pretend that we've all got it figured out.
Absolutely.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Having kids is a good reminder of that.
that's and that's why we love, if to me, a great indication of how present a person is, if you're anywhere and there are children laughing and screaming and playing, if you're not laughing, you are so not in your body.
Mhm.
Because to watch a
And
baby just crack up laughing at the face that his mother or father just made, it's the most hilarious thing they've ever seen, right? And you can't help but laugh because you can just feel that pure joy and that pure curiosity. And that's the ticket. People say, well, how do I find it again? Well, first of all, it didn't go anywhere. It's alive and well. You're just looking in the wrong place. Stop looking out there. The answers aren't out there. The answers are in here. Spend some time and look inside to find that. That's where the answer is. You're not going to find it out there. What you're going to find is a whole lot of opinions and a whole lot of ways that you should be doing something that have nothing to do with who you are and what might work for you or not. You only find that in here. It's an inside job.
the answers are inside too. Yeah. There's all of the answers are inside. And we say a lot, with the right environment and the right support, you can heal yourself. And I think there's a long path to get to that point where you can find your answers inside. But I should say, and we're on a quest to help create those environments. And I think the environments, like what we're just talking about, is where you can share, where you can feel vulnerable, where you can be relaxed enough to notice the child's laughter. More of those spaces, and more people like yourself, Marlene, too, that can help people find their healing. Like that's what that's what we need. That's what we're on a quest to deliver.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And I think the three of us share, and many others share, like this new vision for what it means to heal. Right. And even the word healing in itself, we could probably argue that it's more of a path to just aligning to your authenticity, to who you truly are, to who we truly are on the deepest possible levels. And it's really exciting. And I think Mike and I always love these opportunities to speak with people like you who hold this similar vision for the direction that we're going towards in healing everything that we've taken on in this lifetime and in others. So yeah, we thank you, Marlene, for this awesome conversation. And I think you gave both of us free sessions in the work of Marlene Mier.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think you gave everybody who's going to listen to this a glimpse into how you work and into a little bit of what I think we all see and envision this healthcare, what healthcare is supposed to look like on its deepest level, and people even facing these very dire circumstances, and even facing things that may not seem so dire, the solution can be very similar for everybody, right? It is this checking back in with yourself. Who are you? Where are you finding yourself straying from who you are deep down? And like tapping back into that childlike nature, I think, we touched on at the very end, just living in this playfulness is a great space for everybody to start, no matter really what's going on with them. And of course, having a community where we can all share these things and we can all be witnessed and we can witness others. So yeah, thank you for helping us grow this vision and build this vision, and being part of this conversation. And we've only spoken with you. This is the second time we've spoken with you, but from the first time, I just felt like I'd known you for a long time, because it was when I reached out to you, I was like, oh, Marlene, yeah, we're great buds, kind of thing. Like that was what's in my head. And I was like, oh, we've only talked to her once,
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about resonance, right? When you resonate with somebody, it feels, like I used to say, like, oh, there you are, love. I've been waiting a long time to catch up with you again. It's so good to see you now. Where you been? I mean, it feels like that, right? It feels like coming
Yeah.
together. But I too want to take a minute to honor both of you and to just reflect what beautiful work you are both doing in the world. And I just honor the fact that you're doing it together. I think that's so beautiful. And just your vision. And that's how we got connected, because I was visioning a physical community with earth-based, there really is no separation between building and earth. And I love that you understand that the places, the environments where people go to heal are oftentimes the most viscerally sensory bombarding environments one could ever put themselves in. And what if people had beautiful natural environments very close to where they are that allowed for, you know, no sensory overwhelm, gave people quiet and space to drop in and be still with themselves and each other. And so just really want to honor and bless you both for the work that you're doing to bring that into fruition. And the world needs more of those spaces. We really do. And we need to live though. We really need, that's living, in my opinion, as close to and symbolically with nature as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. There's tools in every healer's toolkit, and the space they work from should be an amplifier of their ability to heal others. What we just talked about for the majority of this conversation is just as important, or maybe even more important, than what the building looks like or how it's shaped or the materials it's made out of, but is the people that fill the space and their ability to be witnessing, their ability to witness others and to be vulnerable. I think those qualities make the space a healing space, almost more so than the physicality of it as well. We would have to do another podcast to talk about all of the nerdy, fun stuff about material sciences and sonic resonance and all the other fun stuff. But I really like the stuff we touched on today, because that's anyone can make that space, which is
Yeah,
what we
and you
need.
don't have
We
to
just
go
need more people.
you don't have to go somewhere to,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's the whole point. Everybody wants to make it, well, when I go on my retreat. Okay, well, here's the
Yeah.
problem with that. You go on your retreat and you're not in your regular environment and you're in this beautiful environment, and it takes you a couple of days to get your old environment off. And just when you drop into this new space, then it's time to go home. And then you get shoved, kicking and screaming, right back into your old world, and there's no integration because you didn't sit in the world, in your day-to-day space, and make sense of it and find the sacred in your day-to-day world and find the places in which you must speak your voice for healing, and you get to show up and be vulnerable so that somebody can receive that and get through that, say, oh, well, this is okay. I can share my vulnerability too. The more we do that, the more, and it's weird, but it gives permission. And who needs permission to do anything? But in this culture, we do. It gives people permission to go, oh, thank God, I can just let you know that I'm in a really shitty place right now. And I really appreciate you being here with me, because that's really what I need. I just need to
Yeah.
hang out.
Right. I can't wait to go to my retreat to tell anyone this. I gotta say it now. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
funny
can't
'cause
wait to the
people
retreat I go.
I always say you go away, Humpty Dumpty gets cracked open again, but I mean, Humpty gets cracked, but does Humpty ever get put back together again? I don't know. Sometimes just Humpty rolls in pieces down the hill, and that's it. You're shattered into a million pieces, but you never get to integrate it back into the whole. So what did Humpty become? We will never know, do we?
Yeah. I think when Mike and I think about these spaces that we're building, we envision them as actually being the the center of a community,
Mhm.
right? Of just being ingrained in as part of, and we even we don't know what this timeline looks like, but it's like in the future we're like these buildings aren't going to be called healing buildings anymore. They're just going to be spaces, right? Like we're not going to need uh, dedicated spaces for healing, right? These are just going to be buildings that we all live in that are built in alignment with nature and with health of the human being. And so for now, though, the society that we're in, the world that we've created, I, we really like the idea of having these as the center of these communities, as a place where people just are coming together, and like the sharing, the witnessing is just a daily part of people's lives, normalizing that. So having it as the center of the community, it's just like, oh yeah, this is just like the school and just like the town square, right? Is supposed to be the center of the community. It's no, this is where we go to cry and to share our emotions, and to get a little homeopathy if you need, or whatever it is, right? Yeah, it's just
This is just coming to me, but our society is all based on GDP.
Yeah.
The community that we are creating, is based on a measure that can quantify your expression of authenticity. And so it's a community that has needs met, your ability to live and have shelter and food and all those things, but it's also the energies of the spaces and these healing spaces that we just talked about, your ability to witness people and allow them to fully express. Like that's the measure. It's not GDP, it's authenticity.
Mm-hmm. Sure is. And
yeah,
with that, love is the currency.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Love is the
They
currency. And so, the invitation that I would leave everybody with today is, how in this moment, when you listen to this conversation, how in this moment can you step out of this conversation, and who needs your witnessing right now? And it might just be you. Who are you going to witness today? And
even as I say that,
can we
oh, go ahead, sorry.
practice that every day? Can we be a loving witness to ourselves and each other every single day? If can you imagine what would happen if we were committed to just that alone? Love would be the frequency. Love would be the currency.
Yeah. It's just an honest reflection as well. It's like when we started the bathhouse, and it's a perfect opportunity to create community. It's exactly what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think about each individual member, I say, if I were today to just say, all of you can come here and cry and tell me your things and your fears, I have a little hesitation, like, oh, that's not what they signed up for. Like they signed up for a sauna and a cold plunge. They didn't sign up for, and then I'm like, no, that's not true. That's a lie. So it's just an awesome reflection to be like, this needs to be in every single motion and movement and thought and process. This isn't just a thing that you compartmentalize on the occasions that you want people to feel safe. Like it needs to be happening all the time, 100% of the time. And me as the example needs to be willing to do that. And yeah, I have to admit there's some moments where I'm like, I don't want to be you, but you have to be like, if you're creating this community, someone's gotta start.
yeah. And there are always times and places too for not crying and sharing everything, right? Like, yeah, like, you know, like this space, yeah, like what because you're the tender. Mike's the sauna tender. He's the guy who's there every day. It's a space for all of those things, right? For people to show up, and they can share if they want whatever they're going through, or they can, if they just need somebody to laugh with, or to just joke with, right? Like that's therapy in itself too, or
It is.
a time a time to check out, right? Sometimes it's just too much. It's too overwhelming. They just need a place to go where they don't have to think about those things. So it can be all of it.
Sure.
Um, yeah, don't put too much pressure on yourself to be the therapist.
No.
It's all
No, it was just a little reflection, like, there's
Yeah.
a little twang, like, no, not to be the therapist, but like,
Oh,
just to see that vision to its fullest. Like,
yeah.
there's like, can you be that vulnerable with everyone, or are you just selective with who you're vulnerable with? And of course it takes relationships and getting to know people, but I think that's just a fear. At least I think that's a fear a lot of people have. Like, it's the fear of being seen and witnessed, and in your deepest moments.
Yeah. 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 There's a practice that I've started doing a few times here and there, but it's looking yourself in the mirror and telling yourself that I love you over and over again. Um, and I tried it a few years ago, and it was so odd and awkward and uncomfortable, and I was just taken back by how hard it was to tell myself that I loved myself and to repeat it over and over again. But I really started to get into it more recently, and it is amazing what it brings up. It's so amazing the emotions that come up. You just stare yourself in the eye and do it for 5 to 10 minutes. But the times that I've done it just end in tears, and it's like the feelings, the release after doing those is just like a really good therapy session, and it only lasts 5 or 10 minutes. But I forget who I've heard it a couple of times from different people, but it's telling how hard it is for each of us to tell ourselves how much we love, that we love ourselves. I think that's really telling in our society. Just if we can't love ourselves, right? If we can't tell ourselves, then who else can, right? And the power that it holds to release. I mean, and so many emotions would come up. It was just things I wouldn't even expect. The things I hadn't thought about for years, right? These like little judgments I would hold against myself, and even like I was holding on to this thing. I spoke poorly of someone like 20 years ago. Okay, and I'm still holding on to this, like a friend of mine. And I was still holding on to that. I'm just crying and crying for like this pressure I put on myself to be, loving and kind. And anyway, so just these little exercises of love can go so far for each of us. So anyway,
Yeah, it's a beautiful reminder.
Excuse me. This. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation.
yeah,
What a tickle. Yeah.
Thank you both. Thank you both. This has been lovely. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Yes, I'm so
Is
glad we
there-
got to connect, Marlene. Again.
is
Yeah.
there? I need to cough.
Oh,
Is there a website or somewhere that you'd like to direct people
Sure.
to learn more about you and your work, connect with you?
Yeah, thank you. My website is greatmeander.com. So GreatMeander.com, because life is a great meander.
Yeah, wonderful. Very cool. Okay. And we wish you the best on the next chapter in your life, whatever that may be. And I know that we'll connect and be in touch with each other probably many times in the future. So
I look forward to
until then, all right.
that. Thank you both so
Thanks,
much.
Marlene.
And happy
Thanks,
birthday
Marlene.
to you. Happy birthday.
No, yeah.
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.